No female basketball player has ever gripped public imagination in the U.S. quite like Caitlyn Clark. The story of her rapid ascent to the very top of her sport has dominated the headlines for the better part of the last 2 years. The noise continues to get louder as she transitions from a charmed NCAA career that saw her play in 2 national championship games, win the Naismith Award, and break numerous records, into the unforgiving world of professional basketball in WNBA. Spurred by her incredible play and unique personality, the fans, media personalities, and even numerous NBA stars are incessantly commenting on everything from her basketball future to her significance in the increasingly divisive cultural landscape of American life. Before we start talking about the most impactful quotes from NBA players, we need to take a step back and try to understand the so-called Caitlyn Clark effect. Caitlyn is certainly not the first transcendent female basketball player to achieve major fame, but none of her predecessors actually managed to draw additional eyeballs to the game. With the former Iowa star, things are different. She is drawing huge crowds whenever she plays, attracting new people who otherwise wouldn't bother to watch women's basketball either in person or on TV. In effect, other female players are reaping financial benefits and finding better opportunities to build their own brands. The type of popularity that she enjoys is best illustrated by the fact that Big Three League owner Ice Cube offered Clark a whopping sum of $5 million to play in his 3x3 competition for a season, but his offer was declined. Caitlyn Clark entered the WNBA draft instead, where she was selected with the first pick by Indiana Fever and accepted a contract that pays her an average of around $84,000 for the next 4 years. Of course, she can make some of the difference through endorsements and high visibility, but it's apparent that the gap between Caitlyn's market value and WNBA standards is humongous. While Caitlyn Clark has seized the media spotlight by the storm, not all of the coverage has been flattering. Most observers praise this young woman for her otherworldly skills on the hardcourt, as well as for her outsized impact on the growth of female basketball. A notable minority disagrees, resulting in numerous instances of media personalities and fellow WNBA players throwing poisonous darts at her image, calling her overhyped, unready to face the elite athletes in the WNBA, and even explain her success as a byproduct of her Caucasian race and traditional sexual preferences. One group that is notably absent from the ranks of critics are NBA stars. A lot of them are on the record congratulating Caitlyn Clark on her accomplishments and defending her against baseless attacks. Virtually all the quotes coming from current NBA players are positive, and they are often shared in a very passionate fashion. Here is what some well-known NBA guys had to say about their wildly popular female colleague. Phoenix Suns superstar and former NBA MVP Kevin Durant was an early supporter who started appreciating Caitlyn's silk-smooth game while she was still in college. In fact, he sees her as a team-first player who willingly shares the ball and knows how to win when the stakes are high. He was asked about Iowa ahead of the 2023 NCAA Final Four, and this is what he had to say.
Yeah, she's just playing a great game, getting her teammates involved. They got so many shooters. I watched them play Louisville, and the way they moved the ball and played off of her was just perfect. But that's just been together for a few years, getting to know one another, and at this point, they're mature enough to dominate games like they've been doing.
One of the biggest accomplishments of Caitlyn Clark's college career was becoming NCAA all-time leading scorer with a total of 3,685 points. She broke a record set by the legendary Pistol Pete way back in the 1970s, and predictably this feat caused a lot of famous people to congratulate her, including current NBA players Damian Lillard of the Milwaukee Bucks and Luca Garza of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Here are their sincere messages.
Just wanted to take a second to say congratulations on the scoring record to Caitlyn Clark. Huge fan of your game, much respect to you. I like the way you do it. You're a real killer.
This certainly means a lot coming from one of the most notorious cold-blooded assassins capable of scoring at will from practically any spot on the floor. However, kind words from Garza, who spent his college career playing for her alma mater, Iowa, may mean even more to Caitlyn Clark.
Congrats, GOAT. This is an incredible record to break. Keep doing your thing. Bring home the natty this year. You make all Hawkeyes proud. Congratulations.
Once the WNBA draft was over, and it was clear that Clark will be calling Indianapolis her next home, local basketball heroes were inevitably asked about her. Who better to comment on the newest belle of the ball than the current face of the Indiana Pacers franchise and reigning NBA assists leader, Tyrese Halberton? The beloved point guard and U.S. national team member welcomed Clark to his territory in a very direct manner.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for her to be here. I think it brings a lot of excitement to the city, and a city with a lot of young talent already as it is, and adding her, she's one of the faces of women's basketball, and for her to be here and under the same roof, I think is really exciting.
If you didn't notice, Halberton sounds very excited. Jokes aside, his friendly vibe will certainly help Caitlyn Clark to be more comfortable in her new surroundings, although Fever's fans are already doing a good job about that. Still, for Halberton to publicly welcome the new star without any hint of envy or rivalry was classy, to say the least. Of course, there is only one voice that can unequivocally welcome the most popular female baller to the big stage. There is only one king in the NBA. His name is LeBron James, and his opinion about pretty much anything carries a lot of weight in the mainstream media. LeBron has never been anything but a gentleman, so it's no surprise he threw the full weight of his support behind Caitlyn Clark. He talked about the rookie guard while doing a podcast with JJ Redick, and they spent quite some time discussing the media circus surrounding her. Here is a true gem from the King's mouth.
The one thing that I love that she's bringing to her sport, more people want to tune in. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it fucked up. Caitlyn Clark is the reason why a lot of great things is going to happen for the WNBA. But for her individually, I don't think she should get involved on nothing that's being said. Just go have fun, enjoy, but I'm rooting for Caitlyn because I've been in that seat before.
On the same podcast, LeBron James went on to give some sage advice to a young player coming into a professional league and facing intense media scrutiny. Since James arrived in the NBA at just 18 years old and was already being touted as the next great thing, he clearly knows what he is talking about, even if the modern media space is vastly different and more vicious than 20 years ago when he was a rookie. Still, his message rings very true and reminds us all that talent means nothing without hard work and a complete focus on things that truly matter. Here are his exact words.
My advice to Caitlyn, and my advice to anyone that comes in with this notoriety, out of this world expectation, it's all about having, be a horseman, the Kentucky Derby, put your blinders on, show up to work, punch your clock in, prepare yourself, work on your game, work on your craft.
You can't argue against this approach, especially since James is speaking based on 2 decades worth of experience. It may not be easy for Caitlyn Clark to block out all the external noise, but focusing on getting better every day is definitely a smart choice for someone who is seemingly talked about non-stop. Clark can't control the narrative, but she can control her own preparedness and keep fixing any remaining flaws in her game so that the critics don't have too much ammunition. Speaking of her game, it's already at a level where she is getting recognition from the best point guards in the NBA. Atlanta Hawks sharpshooter Trey Young is a great example of a big-name college prospect who managed to live up to the hype in the pros. The prolific three-point shooter and brilliant assist man shared his thoughts about Caitlyn's offensive mix and essentially told the players trying to defend her, they have no chance no matter how hard they try.
At the beginning of the game, she was just driving to the basket. She was getting layup after layup. And so at some point, the defender that's guarding her way out on the perimeter because they don't want her to shoot threes, I'm not going to let her just keep driving by me. She was dribbling with her left, and then she was using her hang dribble. She was going to be able to blow by her defender or not. And she was just doing step backs and side steps and dribbling in the lane, dribbling back out, and then shooting threes.
Young's assessment is very accurate and illustrates why offensive versatility is the key to Clark's success at the next level. By mixing up some dribble penetration with outside shooting, she can constantly keep the defenses guessing and open some space for playmaking. Another legendary guard with impressive shooting skills tends to agree that Caitlyn Clark is a force that can't be easily contained. Steph Curry is a 4-time NBA champion and is widely considered to be the best three-point shooter in basketball history. His response about Clark is telling, since he is awarding her the highest level of respect one could give a rookie guard that is still fighting for her place under the sun.
I mean, I've been watching from afar and understanding just how much of a power she is out there on the court. The cool part is the way that she plays and her range and the level of difficulty on her shots is obviously a very close comparison to the way that I play.
I was going to say, Caitlyn Clark's been compared to you.
Yeah.
Having Steph compare your game to his is extremely gratifying, and the honest and matter-of-factly tone of his quote is even more impressive. Both Young and Curry are pointing out that Clark's shooting ability puts the defenders in a state of panic. which helps to unlock the rest of the court. It's almost a given that she will learn how to leverage this power as she gains experience, virtually transforming into a female version of Curry that opponents must account for every second of the game. Clark's skills are getting noticed by the younger echelon of NBA players, including some that clearly belong at the top of their generation. Luca Donic is an otherworldly scorer who can kill you from the paint or the three-point line, and he is extremely crafty at keeping the defenders off balance. He seems to agree with the previous assessment of Clark and believes Curry is the closest comparison for her. Here is how he responded to a reporter's question after Clark had a huge scoring game in college against her arch-rivals LSU.
Amazing. I saw this one. He said 41, almost triple-double here. He was shooting like that ball fly.
When the reporter asked whether she reminds him of himself, he quickly found a better comparison.
It's more Steph Curry. It's the one with Steph Curry.
That answer may have been a bit diplomatic, with Luca deferring to the older and more revered shooter, but it's difficult to contend with his logic. He may not want to say it directly, but Luca is built like a tank, and he often relies on his strength to find slivers of space to operate. On the other hand, neither Steph nor Caitlyn have this advantage, so they need to rely on quickness, elusiveness, and flawless shooting from distance to score their points. It's not just the NBA stars that are coming to Clark's defense. Austin Rivers spent more than a decade in the NBA and played the role of a bench scorer for most of that period. He is no stranger to big expectations. He is the son of the famous player and widely respected head coach Doc Rivers, and was once seen as a blue-chip talent worthy of being a lottery draft pick. While he never reached his full potential, he is not allowing anyone to criticize Clark at this early junction of her career. He said some pretty strong words about her and her importance for the sport she plays.
You guys are like coming at her with these like hate-ass comments, talking about, oh, well, you know, it's not just because of her. Last night our game was sold out and she didn't play. Last night we flew charter and she wasn't on that flight. Let's stop it. It's not a coincidence you guys are just now chartering flights her rookie year. It's not a coincidence that now that she's in the WNBA, everyone's paying attention to the WNBA.
He wasn't done shutting the haters down. He had a message for any WNBA rivals who are critical, not to say jealous, of Clark's instant popularity. To make things more fun, Rivers used a pop music reference to get his point through.
If you girls were Destiny's Child, she would be Beyonce. If all the girls in collegiate sports were a band and they were in sync, she would be Justin Timberlake. She was the main attraction. And it's not because she's white. It's not because she's straight. Good God, no one cares.
How's that for a compliment? Perhaps his music references are a bit outdated, but his heart is definitely in the right place. Judging by the ferocity of his comments and the no-nonsense attitude, Rivers might have a bright future in the media. He still deserves kudos for not taking cheap shots at Caitlyn Clark and looking for a big headline and millions of clicks at the expense of the truth. The Denver Nuggets high-scoring forward Michael Porter Jr. has a big contract and a championship ring, but he is frequently described as a one-dimensional scorer who doesn't always give his best effort on defense. When he was asked about the pair of hot WNBA rookies, Caitlyn Clark and Angel Reese, the question naturally had to do with his defensive proofs, namely, could he stop them from scoring on him? His response reveals that he has a lot of respect for the skills of certain female basketball stars.
Offensively, like she'll knock down some corner threes or like a swing three. Like she actually would, because she can shoot from that far. But no, most women can't compete with men, and I don't think men should be able to transition and play with women.
This comment may sell Caitlyn Clark short, since she is much more than just a shooter. Some people might also say that he needlessly waded into a larger conversation about gender and sports that he had no business entering, but he has a right to have an opinion. The fact that he considers Clark to be the one woman that could legitimately score against professional male players proves that his thinking is not prejudicial and illustrates how much of an outlier she really is. If there is one player in the NBA that always speaks his mind, no matter the consequences, it's Golden State Warriors forward and former Defensive Player of the Year Draymond Green. In addition to his often tumultuous relationship with the media, Green is known for his selfless play on the court and the toughness he brings to every game. With this in mind, it's not surprising that he felt entitled to comment on the hard foul that Caitlyn Clark had to endure from Chanity Carter early in her rookie season.
It was for sure a bullshit play. Like, you just run up and chuck the girl. But I'm all for that. I'm not the guy that's going to come out here and be like, you shouldn't do that. No. What my point is they should get an enforcer so that when you do that, somebody come club you.
This may be an unorthodox way to say that Indiana Fever teammates should do a better job protecting their budding star from intimidation by dirty players, but his reasoning makes a lot of sense. Green also touched on another topic related to Clark that most other NBA guys don't really talk about: the $5 million deal from the Big Three and the potential aftermath had the offer been accepted.
$5 million is just not enough. The downside of that is Caitlyn Clark go play in the Big Three. It's not basketball players in the Big Three. It's guys that's playing in the NBA. It's guys that are still actively playing overseas. It's guys getting to it in the Big Three. If Caitlyn Clark doesn't perform well due to that, then what's the conversation? And so I think it does more harm than good.
NBA stars who have their own podcasts are frequently bringing up Caitlyn Clark and the attention she is drawing to light, with the former Indiana Pacers star Paul George in particular turning the tables and acting as the interviewer to set the tone of the conversation. A question he recently asked his guests in the studio shows how important Clark has become for the sport of basketball and how her presence is posing some new dilemmas.
I want to talk about with the addition of Caitlyn Clark and Angel Reese and the attention that they've been getting is mostly positive, but then there's some negative attention when it comes to, the play against Caitlyn Clark where she's pushed in the back. And just, there's been multiple plays where she's faced the bad side of some physicality.
Paul George definitely knows what's it like when the opponents are trying to rough you up, as he faced physical defenders for more than a decade. His stellar career might have been even greater had he not been hampered by injuries, some of which might have been a result of constant contact. Talking about such things publicly might not stop WNBA players from bodying up Clark, but it might put the league on the spot to do something and prevent the worst excesses. It would be a shame if Caitlyn Clark suffered as many injuries as George, as it would rob the fans from seeing her apex form. As you can see, NBA stars are practically unanimous in their belief that Caitlyn Clark is indeed the next big thing in female basketball, if not basketball in general. There is no higher praise than getting recognized by this elite group of performers who understand what it takes to consistently prove the doubters wrong and dominate every facet of the game every night. It may be true that Clark has faced some adversity while trying to adjust to the faster pace and more physical style of the WNBA game, but she has already turned in some amazing games and her averages are far from typical rookie numbers. The best Caitlyn's fans can do is trust the experts and be patient. The best is obviously still to come.